welcome back. Well, we have a lot on the go. We're doing a lot of research. It's every day we research. And there's a lot out there on Jehovah's Witnesses right now when you plug it in and want to look. Today I'm looking at, out of all the articles, I thought this was one I wanted to talk about, Ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, because it involves... I could recognize two of the names here that we see on our Ex-JW community quite a lot. We see them in a lot of the lives. We see them supporting the community. So now we're going to learn a little bit more about these individuals, these ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, and what's motivating them, what's inspiring them to do what they're doing. Well, the ex-JWs speak out about alleged sexual abuse. This is getting old. It's just so much of this stuff. This article was done by Leah Shepard. She's the reporter on this, February 11th, 2024. So it's recent, very recent. Now, this picture I want to get everyone to look at. This was done by Miss Usato. And she writes for the victims of injustice, deceit, and Jehovah's Witnesses. And she does a lot of writing on Avoid JW, or some, I should say, anyways. Now, she drew this. This is her artwork. She put this all together. And this is her picture. Really well done. You see the hands there? There's another set of hands there. So she's grabbing these hands. The other set of hands is holding a Watchtower magazine over her eyes, blindfolding her so she can't see anything. She's trying to rip those hands off so she can finally see. That's what that picture tells me. So let's get right into it. A Kent woman is making it her mission to warn university students and others about a religious organization she says covered up sexual abuse she suffered by one of its leaders. Ciano-Hendricks, a former Jehovah's Witness, helped organize a protest in the fall downtown Kent against the denomination's practice of trying to convert students downtown within view of her workplace. Ciano-Hendricks said she was a member of the organization her whole life and was sexually abused as a child by a current leader in the Ohio chapter. She said after taking concerns about this individual to the elders of the denomination, they swept it under the rug. That's what we see all the time. Ciano-Hendricks said her case is not unique, but rather indicative of a larger problem in the Jehovah's Witnesses on a global scale. She says, when I came about the abuse in my 20s, the elders told me never to speak of it again. And she said I wasn't even to talk to other women in the hall because they didn't want me to form a support group against them. Ciano-Hendricks said the denomination promised the individual who abused her would never hold a position of authority. A few years ago, he was promoted to leadership role, probably an elder or something. Ciano-Hendricks said she never brought her case forward due to the personal reasons as well as the statute of limitations for sexual abuse and assault cases in Ohio. In an email dated October 21st, 2021 to Derek Merkel, a Jehovah's Witness leader in Ohio, Ciano-Hendricks detailed the abuse she said she experienced as a child at the hands of her alleged perpetrator. Ciano-Hendricks provided Kent Wired with emails and text messages exchanges she had with Merkel in a text group chat with Ciano-Hendricks and her husband. Merkel is quoted saying, "I wanted to make you aware that I asked the alleged offender to sit on the right side of the hall to avoid as much contact as possible." Kent Wire tried to reach Merkel twice by phone and once via email over a span of 2 months. He could not be reached for comments. Typical. Typical of Jehovah's Witnesses. They won't comment. When she spoke out about the abuse to other members, Ciano-Hendricks said members of the denomination began using intimidation tactics to try to silence her. More recently, she said they have been recruiting just outside her workplace, and that is what pushed her to protest. Now, keeping in mind, her story is validated here because this elder said he was going to move the perpetrator to the other side of the hall. He admitted that there's a problem. Right in her text messages. In early September, the National Branch of Jehovah's Witnesses responded to the allegations in a statement released to Kentwire. And here's what they say. They always say this kind of crap. Jehovah's Witnesses condemn the grossly evil, unconscionable, selfish actions of someone who victimizes children. Bullshit. Elders in our congregation believe their obedience to God's link obeys the laws of the land. Bullshit. Thus, elders faithfully comply with reporting laws and do not discourage victims from reporting abuse to the police. Very much bullshit. In addition, a person who is engaged in child sex abuse does not qualify to receive any congregation privileges, serve in a position for decades, if ever. In addition, a person who is engaged in bullshit. She just proved this. This guy, they promoted him to elder or to a leader, maybe a servant or something. Ciano-Hendricks said the reaction of the denomination to her abuse claims and the treatment of her daughter after her daughter left the organization herself caused her to finally leave too in 2022. She has since co-written a book entitled Epiphany, Awaken to Your Truth, where she writes about leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses. And I pulled that up. It's just on Amazon here. You can take a look at that. Let me change my display. This Epiphany, it's on Amazon. It's 2023. So it's the 9 unique individuals share intimate glimpses into their lives and stories of triumph as they are awakened to their truth. So that's his book, Epiphany. She wrote this book, and what happened after she wrote the book, she says, when I approached the church or the kingdom hall, they told me I have the right to just not be there when he gives parts. So this guy's giving parts, this perpetrator, this sex abuser. Or they'll tell me to sit on the other side of the room. Like bullshit. She has to go and sit in the other side of the room because of a sex abuser? Report the guy to the police and send him to jail. So the minute I got verbal with the book and everything, I'm labeled an apostate. So she's labeled as the bad person. And this is the problem with this cult. Now, Ciano-Hendricks said an apostate is someone the denomination labels as an enemy of Jehovah, which is Watchtower, or God. Well, they try to get God involved, but it's really Watchtower. The Jehovah's Witness organization defines apostasy as abandoning or deserting the worship and service of Watchtower, not God. They try to bring God into this, but it's nothing to do with God. And actually a rebellion against Jehovah, Watchtower. Watchtower's God. Absolutely. She said because she and her daughter were labeled apostates for leaving, many of their friends and family did not attend her daughter's wedding this September. Skylar, Ciano-Hendricks' daughter, said many people she grew up with would no longer associate with her after she left, likening disfellowship to shunning practices. She said a member's disfellowship is something shared before the whole denomination, and after members are encouraged not to associate with them. They go up on stage, they will announce the person's name, and they say they are no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and that is the effective rule as of the moment. They say a prayer over the congregation and then snap, everything's done. Mitri said even if that person is sitting there, they pretend like they don't exist from that moment on. And any of you out there that have been disfellowshipped, I was disfellowshipped 6 months in when I was baptized back in the 80s. I sat there. I went to the hall and sat there while they announced my name. And then I left. I was going to leave forever, but didn't. Okay, the Jehovah's Witnesses official website said that 2 factors which must coincide result in the disfellowshipping of one of Jehovah's Witnesses. First, a baptized witness commits a serious sin. Second, he does not repent of his sin. The Jehovah's Witness website also affirms that after being disfellowshipped, a member can regain membership in the denomination, saying a disfellowshipped person is not automatically accepted back in after a certain amount of time has passed. Before he can be reinstated, his heart condition must undergo a great change. He must come to realize the gravity of sin and the reproach brought upon the Watchtower and the congregation. You see, that Jehovah doesn't mean anything to me. It's Watchtower. Jehovah's a made-up name. If you ask people, Jehovah, it's those witnesses. It's a kingdom hall. It's nothing to do with God. Jehovah. Jehovah's nothing to do with God. It's a made-up name. It's their name. The denomination and its doctrine. The Christian denomination of witnesses began in the 1870s. I'm not going to get into a lot of this. We know a lot of this. Ciano-Hendricks said a part of what made her rethink the organization's ideals was how they chose to handle rape and sexual assault accusations. And also, many have left because of that. If a child or someone reports rape or child molestation, it says right in their manual you're to be automatically called to corporate headquarters in New York, not the police, not the authorities. And the basis for this, Ciano-Hendricks said, comes from a scripture from Deuteronomy in the Bible that says one witness is not enough. The Jehovah's Witnesses denomination denied it discouraged survivors to speak to police, saying elders faithfully comply with bullshit. They don't comply. They don't talk to the police. It's all bullshit. Regarding rape, an article from 1968 that is still available in the organization's online library said, as a Christian woman, you are under the obligation to resist. Resistance is imperative because the rapist is after not just your money, but your virtue. All garbage. The Jehovah's Witnesses have harbored pedophiles. They've harbored it within their organization. Pedophiles will become a Jehovah's Witness because they can get away with it there. Robbie Cunott, Maitre's husband, said he took her to the emergency room after a seizure. Maitre was disfellowshipped at the time, but she still had a medical card and said she could not accept blood for religious reasons. Immediately after this event, Cunott said they contacted a lawyer to change this. There's this tension in the room because obviously she's not bleeding out right now, but there's this ideology here. There's Skylar with his card in her purse says that let me die, Cunott said, knowing that if this were any other situation, that would have been the end. It's terrifying. Yeah, this whole thing on blood is bad. It is a bad. Jehovah's Witnesses are forbidden to receive blood transfusions, even as children. And she experienced this in her fiance's house. So the blood thing is wrong. It's not scriptural. We have lots of videos on that. Other stories. Now, Ciano-Hendricks said the tactics used by Jehovah's Witnesses are indicative of the institution as a whole, not just a local chapter. Other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses or ex-JWs echoed her thoughts. An anonymous source from Washington, known as Ron Pomo on the social media, we all know Ron Pomo, he said after he woke up, he began collecting internal documents from the public relations branch of the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Public Information Department, and made them public. These documents describe what Ron said he believes is language encouraging dishonesty on part of the denomination when interacting with the media through PR, their public representatives on the news. And they lie through their teeth. You talk about liars? This organization lies in court, they lie to the media, and they lie to their people. We all prove this on our channels, all of us. You know. So anyways, Ron said that even when he was practicing JW, he believed that some spokespeople for the church were being dishonest about doctrine interviews. I believe that. I didn't like how they were, in my opinion, this Ron talking, lying to the media about the real beliefs of the Jehovah's Witnesses. And Ron said, and so I started really paying attention to all the media interviews. And it kind of just captured my attention that this is like a whole media push that they're doing that is very different from anything I've experienced in my whole life as a JW. Ron said that after he shared the documents from the Public Information Department, members of the denomination discovered his identity, even though he was anonymous online. He still fears further retaliation from members of the denomination, which is why he requested to remain anonymous. And that's for many of the apostates online. They can't divulge who they are. They'll lose everything. They could lose their jobs. Let's say they're working for a Jehovah's Witness. They're going to be shunned. They're going to be removed from the company. They're going to be without work. Many have. This is a bad cult. Now, they called the local elders and told them to disfellowship me, Ron said, and that triggered me to say goodbye to my family. That was it. Ron, who is an active online ex-JW community, said he's encountered ex-JWs who are survivors of child sex abuse. There's been a lot, Ron said. I don't think it's normal to have so many people experience it. It's hard to say because I grew up in this cult, But the opinion I've heard from other people is this level of knowing this many people who were abused doesn't seem typical. Another source who requested to be kept anonymous due to the fear of retaliation from the organization said she was shunned after choosing to divorce her ex-husband. And the woman who writes under the pseudonym Miss Usato, and again, we read a lot of her articles, good writer for Avoid JW, Miss Usato for the website Assisting Victims of Ostracism, Injustice, and Deceit in Jehovah's Witnesses, said she was a member of the denomination for 23 years before she left in 2015. Miss Usato said she helps run a motto called the Brave JW, which she calls a Brave JW, which she said helps victims of child sex abuse within the organization. It's an email that's open for victims who are unaware of how criminal and civil cases work. She says, and it's kind of like a breakdown and an emotional sounding board for victims if they need help and need help finding therapy, stuff like that. It's a little bit of everything. Miss Usato said she was also a victim of childhood sexual abuse within the denomination and wants to help others who have had similar experiences. She said when she woke up, it was around the same time a scandal broke in Pennsylvania, her home state, which exposed multiple cases of sexual abuse in the denomination there. And she said she knows some of the perpetrators and the victims personally, which motivated her to get involved. My focus is to keep writing for Avoid JW and try help as many, not just inactive, but active Jehovah's Witnesses, Miss Usato said, because that's kind of our point. We want to help cause transparency in a peaceful way. We basically want to help and show them what's going on and also that they're not alone. And that's the truth. Like the victims coming out, people leaving the Watchtower, they need somewhere to go. They need a platform to land on. And this is what a lot of the Ex-JWs are providing. She referenced cases from both 2018 and 2023 in which Jehovah's Witness organization was ordered by a jury to pay millions to victims of child sex violence. The national headquarters for Jehovah's Witnesses declined to comment on these settlements, but said in a statement released to Kent Wired, Jehovah's Witnesses abhor abuse of anyone. Bullshit. For this reason, we have endeavored to prevent abuse from happening by providing parents, congregates, and religious ministers, elders with practical Bible-based guidance, ongoing education about child sex abuse. Bullshit. Do you know what they do? They tell the kids to trust all the elders, trust the ministerial service. Like, we don't know who's a pedophile or not. The congregation I came from had a pedophile in it. I knew there was something wrong with this elder. He's a book study conductor. 13-year-old girls sitting on his lap, and he's fondling them in the book study. My daughter is of the same age, would stay overnight there with his daughters. The guy's now a pedophile. They're keeping it hidden. They covered it up. I went and talked to the elders. They're covering it up. I got a cease and desist letter. I reported it to the RCMP in Canada here. We'll see what happens. Ciano-Hendricks said that the goal of her August protest, as well as her presence on social media, is not only to demand change, but to let others wanting to get out know they are not alone. The end goal is to let them know that they have us. They have a support system, Ciano-Hendricks said. There are a lot of Skylers and Annas in this world that will help people regroup. She also said one of her long-term goals is to pursue advocacy and raise national awareness of the reality of the Jehovah's Witness denomination. I feel rules also need to change on minors, Ciano-Hendricks said. Just as Norway changed their ruling on stripping the religious category from the Jehovah's Witnesses due to its violating children's rights, we really need to take a hard look at the same thing in the US and Canada. Now, I have a petition in all of my emails, right at the bottom of the descriptions. There's a petition, a link. You can hit it. It's a Canadian link petition. You have to be Canadian to sign this, and we need 1,000 signatures. We're almost there, but we need 1,000 signatures, and then we can take this the next step. Well, thanks a lot, Leah Shepard, the reporter, for this. I sent her an email, thanked her, and thanks to Ciano-Hendricks, Ron Pomo, and Miss Usato. So, great article. It helps us as ex-Jehovah's Witnesses to really see what our fellow ex-Jehovah's Witnesses are up to, and what's inspiring them to do what they're doing. So all over the world, we have ex-Jehovah's Witnesses leaving the organization, speaking out, and telling their stories. And there's a lot of them. So folks, this is just the start of it. We're knocking the tower down. It's knocking brick by brick. We tell our stories. We pound a brick out of the Watchtower. Eventually, the tower will collapse. Well, folks, just a few bricks more and a few more hammers. We all together keep hammering at this organization. She's going to topple. Well, thanks a lot, folks, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.